Hey everyone, welcome back. Slow Growth is out today, which is the third single off of my upcoming solo ambient album. If you'd like to check out the first two, you can find them on all streaming platforms, and on Spotify I've made a playlist where I'll be adding the singles as they release. I've also created a playlist on YouTube where you can find the track breakdowns for Final Dawn and Ash, as well as their visualizers. Just like in the previous videos, I'll be doing a quick run through of the individual tracks that make up the song and going over the techniques I used. Slow Growth is primarily made up of two elements. The first is a recording I made using my modular effect rack. I'm using organ and OP1 as the sound sources, which are going into ripples and then into Morphogene and Magneto. I'm also running the output of Morphogene into clouds, which is very subtly mixed in. Inside Ableton, I added a bunch of effects. This is what the raw audio sounds like. First, I have an auto filter that is using the MS2 circuit type to drive the signal. The cutoff frequency is really high and the resonance is cranked to max, which adds some high-end shine. Next, I have a filter that is rolling off the low end and slightly attenuating the highs. After that, I have an align delay, which I talked about in the last video. Here I'm offsetting the right channel to get a bit of a swirling effect. The last device that is really part of the sound is this shifter. I'm using Survey to pitch shift the recording down a fifth every 2 bars. I'm also using the spread knob to widen the sound a little bit. The second element that is present throughout the track is the pad. This is a serum patch and there isn't really anything going on with it processing wise besides a filter. There's a lot going on in the previous track, so I felt a simple background pad was a nice compliment. Before I get into the other musical elements, there's a field recording that is playing throughout the track. This is from a video I took and all I did was completely roll off anything under 180 Hz. Next is the bass track. This is a very similar bass to the one I used in Final Dawn. I'll be going over the patch in depth in the next video. After the bass, I have some samples I recorded from Plumbutter that are added for texture. Processing wise, I have an EQ3 which is rolling off the low end, Redux to lower bitrate and depth, and Valhalla delay. Next is a sample from one of the sample packs I made for touch loops. The original sample sounds like this. What I ended up doing was stretching the loop to 16 bars and setting the warp mode to texture. Texture mode is similar to a granular synth. The grain size determines how long the individual grains will be, and flux adds randomness to where the grain's location will be as the file plays. It sounds kind of crazy on its own, but in context of the song, it's very subtle. This is the Keyscape grand piano, and the only real processing here is a huge reverb. I also have a Valhalla delay that gets automated on at the end of the clip. The limiter just makes sure the feedback doesn't go crazy. The last two tracks are both recordings from the OP1. The first is a recording of a sampled Deerhorn note that is being shifted down an octave and sent to a little bit of reverb. The second is a sample of a piano note that has a long attack so it sounds more like a pad. The only processing on this track is an auto filter that is automated to close completely at the end of the song. Just like Ash, the final bit of processing going on with this track is a shifter on the master. I'm bringing everything up 4 semitones with a window of 80 milliseconds. You can really hear this in action on the piano track. The shifter adds this little bit of flam, which I think is a really cool effect. This is the piano with the shifter turned off. And this is what it sounds like turned on. That's going to do it for today. I hope you've been enjoying these track breakdowns. Keep an eye out for the next one on the 8th of March. That single will be the final one to release before the full album, which comes out on the 22nd. If you'd like to hear the full track I went over today, you can find it on all streaming services as well as my Bandcamp. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.